Imagine this. You wake up one day and everything feels wrong. The sun is shining, birds are chirping, and the world seems to hum with its usual rhythm. But inside there's a storm, a quiet, gnawing unease you can't quite name. You scroll through your phone and there it is. A flood of smiling faces, triumphant achievements, and endless affirmations. Stay positive, they chirp. Good vibes only, they insist. You force a smile, but the storm inside grows louder. Here's the paradox. In a world obsessed with positivity, why do so many of us feel so hollow? Why does the relentless pursuit of happiness leave us more exhausted, more disconnected, and more lost than ever before? What if the very thing we've been told will save us, always being positive, is the very thing that's breaking us? Think about it. When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel truly angry, sad, or afraid without guilt? When did you last sit with your pain instead of rushing to fix it? We live in a culture that worships the light but banishes the shadow. A society that demands we smile through our suffering and pretend everything is fine. But what happens when we can't? What happens when the mask slips, and the darkness we've been running from finally catches up? This is the great question. What if the problem isn't our pain, but our refusal to feel it? What if the relentless pressure to be positive is not a path to freedom, but a cage we've built for ourselves? The answer lies not in the light, but in the shadows, not in the smile, but in the scream. And as we step into this unsettling truth, we begin to see that the problem with always being positive is far deeper, far darker, and far more transformative than we ever imagined. But to understand it, we must first confront the hidden force that keeps us trapped in this endless cycle of forced optimism. Let's begin. The pressure to always be positive isn't just a cultural trend, it's a psychological and philosophical trap. At its core, it's a denial of the human condition, a refusal to confront the messy, contradictory, and often painful reality of existence. But why does this obsession with positivity persist? Why do we cling to it so desperately, even when it leaves us feeling more fractured and disconnected? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, offers a clue. He spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject, suppress, or deny. These are the emotions, desires, and traits we deem unacceptable: anger, sadness, fear, vulnerability. Jung warned that ignoring the shadow doesn't make it disappear. It only grows stronger in the dark, manifesting in destructive ways. The relentless pursuit of positivity is, in many ways, a collective shadow suppression. We've been taught that negative emotions are dangerous, shameful, or weak, so we bury them, plastering over the cracks with forced smiles and empty affirmations, but the shadow doesn't vanish, it festers. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher of existential courage, saw this dynamic clearly. He warned against the dangers of escapism, the tendency to flee from life's inherent struggles and uncertainties. "What does not kill me makes me stronger," he famously wrote, but only if we face it head-on. The modern cult of positivity, with its insistence on good vibes only, is a form of escapism. It's a refusal to engage with the full spectrum of human experience, a rejection of the very struggles that define and shape us. Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher of pessimism, took this even further. He argued that life is inherently fraught with suffering, and that denying this truth only leads to greater pain. "The pain of the mind is worse than the pain of the body," he wrote. By forcing ourselves to be positive, we add another layer of suffering, the agony of pretending. We become actors in a play we didn't write, performing happiness for an audience that doesn't care. And then there's the societal dimension. Aldous Huxley, in his dystopian masterpiece Brave New World, envisioned a society where discomfort and pain were eradicated through distraction and sedation. Just be happy, the citizens were told as they numbed themselves with pleasure and conformity. Sound familiar? Our modern world, with its endless streams of entertainment, consumerism, and self-help platitudes, mirrors Huxley's vision. We're encouraged to avoid discomfort at all costs, to medicate our pain rather than understand it. But here's the deeper truth. The pressure to always be positive isn't just about avoiding discomfort, it's about control. It's a way for society to keep us compliant, productive, and distracted. If we're too busy chasing happiness, we won't question the systems that exploit us. If we're too afraid of our own darkness, we won't challenge the status quo. This is the hidden problem. The cult of positivity isn't just a personal struggle, it's a societal mechanism. It's a way to keep us from confronting the deeper truths of our existence, our fears, our desires, our mortality. And as long as we buy into it, we remain trapped in a cycle of denial and disconnection. But what are the consequences of this trap? How does it shape our lives, our relationships, and our world? The answers are more unsettling than you might think. Let's dive deeper. The consequences of always being positive are not just personal. They ripple outward, shaping our relationships, our communities, and even the fabric of society. On the surface it seems harmless, even virtuous. But beneath the veneer of smiles and affirmations lies a web of silent, insidious effects that erode our humanity. First, there's the toll on our mental health. Psychologists have identified a phenomenon called toxic positivity, the insistence on maintaining a positive mindset at all costs, even when it's unrealistic or harmful. This isn't just unhelpful, it's damaging. When we deny ourselves the right to feel pain, we invalidate our own experiences. We send ourselves the message that our emotions are wrong, that we are broken for feeling anything but joy. Over time, this creates a deep sense of shame and alienation. We become strangers to ourselves, disconnected from our own inner worlds. Neurologically, this suppression has profound effects. Research shows that repressing emotions doesn't make them go away, it amplifies them. The brain's amygdala, responsible for processing fear and anger, becomes hyperactive when emotions are suppressed. This leads to chronic stress, anxiety, and even physical health problems. The body keeps the score, as trauma expert Bessel van der Kolk reminds us. When we refuse to feel, our bodies bear the burden. But the damage doesn't stop at the individual level. Toxic positivity seeps into our relationships, creating a culture of superficiality and disconnection. Imagine confiding in a friend about a deep struggle, only to be met with, "Just think positive," or "Everything happens for a reason." These responses, though well-meaning, are dismissive. They shut down genuine connection, leaving us feeling unseen and unheard. Over time, this erodes trust and intimacy. We learn to hide our true selves, to perform happiness even when we're crumbling inside. On a societal level, the consequences are even more alarming. Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher, warned of bad faith, the act of lying to oneself to avoid the discomfort of freedom and responsibility. The cult of positivity is a form of collective bad faith. It allows us to ignore the injustices and inequalities around us, to turn away from the suffering of others with a shrug and a smile. Just focus on the good, we tell ourselves, as the world burns. This isn't just apathy, it's complicity. By refusing to engage with the darker aspects of reality, we enable systems of oppression and exploitation. We become passive participants in a broken world, too preoccupied with our own happiness to challenge the status quo. And then there's the existential cost. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote extensively about the importance of meaning in human life. He argued that suffering, while painful, is an integral part of the human experience. It forces us to confront fundamental questions about who we are and what we value. But when we numb ourselves with positivity, we lose the opportunity for growth and transformation. We trade depth for comfort, meaning for ease. The unseen consequences of always being positive are vast and far-reaching. They shape not only our inner lives but also our relationships, our communities, and our world. And yet, there is a way out, a way to break free from this cycle of denial and disconnection. But it requires a radical shift in perspective, a willingness to embrace the full spectrum of human experience. What would it look like to rebel against the cult of positivity? How can we reclaim our right to feel, to question, to struggle? The answers are both challenging and liberating. Let's explore them. Breaking free from the cult of positivity isn't just about allowing yourself to feel sad or angry, it's about reclaiming your humanity. It's about rejecting the idea that life should be a never-ending parade of happiness and embracing the full, messy, beautiful spectrum of human experience. This rebellion begins with a radical shift in perspective. What if the goal isn't to be happy, but to be alive? The first step is to confront your shadow. Carl Jung believed that integrating the shadow, the parts of yourself you've rejected or denied, is essential for psychological wholeness. This means sitting with your anger, your sadness, your fear, and your pain. It means asking yourself hard questions. What am I avoiding? What am I afraid to feel? What parts of myself have I disowned? This isn't easy work. It requires courage and vulnerability, but it's also profoundly liberating. When you stop running from your darkness, you reclaim your power. Next, you must challenge the cultural narratives that equate positivity with virtue. Friedrich Nietzsche called for a revaluation of all values. a questioning of the beliefs and assumptions we take for granted. Why do we see negativity as weakness? Why do we equate suffering with failure? These are not truths, they are cultural constructs. By questioning them, you begin to see that your pain is not a flaw, it's a testament to your humanity. This rebellion also requires a shift in how you relate to others. Instead of offering empty platitudes, practice radical empathy. When someone shares their pain, resist the urge to fix it. Simply listen. Hold space for their emotions without judgment or interruption. This kind of connection is rare in a world obsessed with positivity, but it's also deeply healing. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. On a societal level, breaking free means rejecting the systems that profit from our disconnection. Aldous Huxley warned of a world where people are kept docile through distraction and sedation, but we are not powerless. We can choose to engage with the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. This means confronting injustice, questioning authority, and refusing to numb ourselves with consumerism or entertainment. It means embracing the discomfort of awareness and using it as fuel for change. Finally, this rebellion requires a redefinition of success. In a culture that glorifies achievement and happiness, it's easy to feel like a failure if you're not constantly thriving. But what if success isn't about how much you accomplish or how happy you feel? What if it's about how deeply you live, how authentically you connect, how courageously you face your struggles? Viktor Frankl argued that meaning, not happiness, is the ultimate goal of human life. By shifting your focus from happiness to meaning, you free yourself from the tyranny of positivity. This rebellion is not easy. It requires you to confront your deepest fears, to question your most cherished beliefs, and to stand against the tide of cultural conditioning. But it's also profoundly transformative. When you stop chasing happiness and start embracing life, you discover a depth of experience you never knew was possible. Finally, this rebellion requires a redefinition of success. In a culture that glorifies achievement and happiness, it's easy to feel like a failure if you're not constantly thriving. But what if success isn't about how much you accomplish or how happy you feel? What if it's about how deeply you live, how authentically you connect, how courageously you face your struggles? Viktor Frankl argued that meaning, not happiness, is the ultimate goal of human life. By shifting your focus from happiness to meaning, you free yourself from the tyranny of positivity. This rebellion is not easy. It requires you to confront your deepest fears, to question your most cherished beliefs, and to stand against the tide of cultural conditioning. But it's also profoundly transformative. When you stop chasing happiness and start embracing life, you discover a depth of experience you never knew was possible. And yet, there is one final truth, a realization so powerful it redefines everything. It's the key to true freedom, the ultimate answer to the problem with always being positive. Let's uncover it together. The ultimate truth is this: life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. The relentless pursuit of positivity is an attempt to control the uncontrollable, to impose order on the chaos of existence. But life, in all its complexity and contradiction, cannot be reduced to a simple formula. It cannot be tamed or sanitized. It is messy, unpredictable, and profoundly beautiful, but only if we have the courage to embrace it as it is. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. It means letting go of the illusion that we can, or should, always be happy. It means accepting that pain, struggle, and uncertainty are not aberrations. They are the very fabric of life. As Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And who we truly are is not a collection of positive traits and emotions, but a mosaic of light and shadow, joy and sorrow, strength and vulnerability. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this better than most. He saw that the greatest human achievements arise not from comfort, but from struggle. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star, he wrote. By embracing our chaos, we tap into a wellspring of creativity, resilience, and meaning. We discover that our darkest moments are not obstacles to be overcome, but gateways to transformation. This is the paradox at the heart of the human experience. The more we try to avoid suffering, the more we suffer. But when we stop running, when we turn and face our pain with open eyes and an open heart, we find that it has something to teach us. It shows us what we value, what we fear, and what we are capable of. It connects us to others, to the world, and to ourselves in ways that happiness alone never could. Viktor Frankl, who endured unimaginable suffering in the Holocaust, came to a similar conclusion. He wrote, When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. This is the essence of the human spirit, the ability to find meaning in the midst of suffering, to transform pain into purpose. It is not about denying our struggles, but about finding the courage to live through them. And so, the final, most powerful realization is this: the problem with always being positive is not that it's wrong to seek happiness, it's that happiness is not enough. To live fully, we must embrace the full spectrum of human experience. We must allow ourselves to feel deeply, to question boldly, and to love fiercely. We must stop chasing an impossible ideal and start living the life that is ours to live.